On this edition of Fulton at Work, Fulton County Commissioners put their money where their mouth is in the fight against the growing heroin epidemic in Fulton County. We'll have the details. And later, we'll tell you how actor George Clooney got involved with another serious issue that involves our kids, that being sex trafficking. I'm Daryl Carver. We'll talk about these important topics on Fulton at Work. Please stay with us. Welcome to Fulton at Work. I'm Daryl Carver. Fulton County officials take a major step in saving the lives of people who might otherwise die from a heroin overdose. During its board meeting in April, commissioners approved funding for an overdose drug that responders could use on medical calls. The drug is called naloxone, and it can reverse the effects of an opiate overdose. Now, Todd Long is the county's chief operating officer and was instrumental in crafting this particular resolution. First of all, Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, Todd, commissioners and staff have been working on a way to try to save the lives of some of these users who were on the brink of overdosing when responders first come to many of these calls. We heard from many parents and other advocates making personal pleas for the board to help, and we're going to take a listen to that right now.
Zach was a beautiful, bright, talented, sweet kid. He was my only child, and on the morning of May 1st, 2011, I got the phone call that he died of a heroin overdose in the backseat of his grandparents' car in Fulton County.
I went back home and found my 27-year-old grandson dead on the sofa in the basement in the den at our house. Folks, this is an addiction that will be there for life once you have it. I don't think there's a cure for it. I think you wake up every day with a craving.
I lived the heroin nightmare. I performed CPR on an 18-year-old girl on my garage floor. When the first responders got there, don't I pray and wish that they had the things they need to save her life. And I'm quite certain that every one of our first responders want to be equipped to save a life.
But they've got to live long enough to get there. My son didn't, unfortunately. If they're alive, if they're still alive, there's hope. I beg you to please approve the passage of this financing for naloxone.
As long as we can save one child, we need to try to do it. I would urge you to look favorably upon this request, and let's try to stop the carnage. It's a national plague.
Now, those families and advocates really wanted the board to take some aggressive action, and the board did just that. How did this resolution for the board first come about?
Well, back in February, we had an opportunity with Commissioner Hausman brought to the board the whole idea of funding first responders being equipped with, we call it Narcan, which is like a brand name, but naloxone is what it is. And essentially, we looked at how could we do that? How can we get that in the hands of law enforcement personnel throughout the county? And we decided on really starting a kind of a seed effort to get it going. We set up to about $49,000. And that would allow for every jurisdiction to get at least some measure of this dosage that they can provide their law enforcement officers. And hopefully, if you get it in their hands, they'll get used to using it, and the effects are tremendous. I've seen the videos. When someone gets this product after they're being overdosed with heroin, they actually do pop right up. It's just quite amazing, and usually followed with, hey, we saved a life. This is just amazing. So we're looking forward to getting that out there. The board was very graceful in giving money to this effort, and we're going to work with an organization that can distribute that to law enforcement throughout the county. We're probably putting something together the next 30 to 60 days, lays out the training for it and the distribution of it.
Now, you mentioned that the vice chair had been key in hearing from her constituents about this issue, and then she wanted to officially read part of this resolution. Let's take a listen to that.
And whereas the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County is concerned about the continuing heroin addiction threat and recognizes the benefit of naloxone, and whereas on February 17, 2016, the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County adopted Resolution 16-0152 and authorized the development of a comprehensive and collaborative plan for funding to equip and train first responders on the use of naloxone. And now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County hereby approves the funding of up to $49,000 for the initial purchase of naloxone to be distributed to law enforcement agencies throughout Fulton County and its municipalities.
Now, that was approved by a unanimous 7-0 vote of the Board of Commissioners, that funding of $49,000. And as I understand it, Todd, it was for the initial purchase of naloxone. What happens after that supply runs out?
Well, right now, depending on the price of the product, it looks like we can probably get maybe close to 1,000 doses. So after that runs out, obviously, we're exploring now different options. There are grants. There was legislation just recently passed in Congress that gives several $1 million to the states for purchase of this product. So hopefully we can get through grants and we're working through other organizations that may be getting it. And that's the whole intent. Instead of us distributing it here at the county, we wanted to partner with another organization to do that. So hopefully, in the long run, we'll have a supply to give these law enforcement personnel. I will say that some cities are already equipping their law enforcement. Not many, but the vast majority of law enforcement don't have it. But the fire departments among most of the cities in Fulton County are using this product. But sometimes they're not the first ones on the scene. So that's why it's so important that we get the law enforcement personnel equipped as well. And over time, I think we'll see a benefit.
Now, I think you touched upon this tangentially. Who exactly will use the naloxone, and how will they actually get it?
Well, the thought is we'll get with a provider, some nonprofit group, and we're looking at several right now. But essentially what would happen is they would be given, through an agreement with Fulton County, $49,000 worth of product, and then they would distribute it based on the cities responding for the need. Like I said before, some cities probably are not going to come to us because they already are getting it from their fire department, but many cities don't have that at all. So we're hoping to get it out as fast as we can. Obviously, $49,000 is just a start to the process. That was several board members said they hope to see a lot more in the long run, but our board has been very aggressive trying to get the word out. So we're very, very thankful for that. And our Dr. Toomey, who's our health director here in Fulton County, will be coordinating that effort, getting the product to the third-party vendor that's going to be putting that out.
And from what I understand, part of the goal here is to make sure that this is available to responders countywide.
That is correct. You know, there's been a big awareness brought up in North Fulton, and I know there's been several TV stations that have done very, very good reports. In fact, Fulton County has done a study as well. But North Fulton has a high percentage growth, but the problem is not just in North Fulton. It's all over Fulton County. It's all over the metro region, for that matter. Obviously, in our purview here at Fulton County, we're dealing with the county, but it is a region-wide problem. So we're going to try to make sure that this is distributed countywide, both north, south, and in the middle in Atlanta.
Now, naloxone, or as you said, the brand name of it is Narcan. Tell us, first of all, how this is administered.
Well, you can administer it several ways, but I'm told the most efficient way for police officers and first responders to do it is probably through a nasal usage, and that makes it very, very simple. It's no more than taking some kind of adapter and applying it nasally.
Now, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the alarming numbers that really prove that this drug was needed for county responders. But please, stay with us. Welcome back. We've been talking about the steps Fulton County is taking to save the lives of residents who find themselves overdosing on opiates. Now, the county's chief operating officer, Todd Long, has been sharing with us the details of the resolution the commissioners passed that now gives first responders the anti-heroin overdose drug naloxone. Now, from what I understand, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab noticed, a 300% increase in samples of seized heroin between just 2011 and 2014. And we've learned that this issue is particularly prevalent in North Fulton right now, correct?
Well, that's correct. But like I said before, it's really all over the metro region.
And in terms of dealing with it as a region-wide problem, tell us the thought that goes into making it that sort of focus.
Well, as we move forward, obviously, we got to come up with a comprehensive long-range plan. You know, this whole idea of giving first responders Narcan is really it's a quick fix to keep them alive. But ultimately, we've got to come up with a plan that includes, how to keep people off opiates in the beginning, how to get people in treatment programs and get them off the drug. Just like the judge said in the earlier segment, essentially, you wake up in the morning, you have cravings, so how do you stop that? And I'm not a doctor, don't pretend to be one, but I'm told by our physicians here at Fulton County that it is a very, very hard drug to get off of. So how do you treat that? And so we're involving our behavioral health staff, our other doctors, and other groups that deal with counseling, and getting all those entities involved, and especially long-term, the school system is going to be very pivotal to really resolving this issue.
I know that we heard one pretty disturbing stat, which was between 2013, the number of heroin-related deaths that the county medical examiner investigated went from 19 to 77 just the next year. I'm imagining that naloxone would really be a huge help for first responders to decrease that number down the road, correct?
Well, yes. Ultimately, that's a scary number no matter how you look at it. When you see that kind of number of deaths, it is a much bigger problem than just solving, though, with Narcan. Because Narcan, just like I said before, it gets them, keeps them alive. But ultimately, we've got to resolve the start of the process. In other words, keeping them from getting hooked on it in the first place.
Now, I know that your office was involved as a participant in the study that the district attorney did. Tell us about that study and its findings.
Well, the district attorney, working through a task force that he developed, he hired a firm to do a study, and I wasn't involved in the beginning of that study at all, but I did read the report, and Dr. Kevin Baldwin, and Eric Scott and others who prepared that report, did a fantastic job documenting the problems and also just laying out some potential recommendations and movement forward. But it was a very good study done at the direction of the district attorney's office.
And I wanted to go through some of the findings of that study, and some of these stats are pretty incredible. And that report really documents the scope of the work that really needs to be done. Among the things that the report sought to do was quantify heroin death by heroin and opiate overdose in Fulton County, also to assess incidence and prevalence of abuse of intravenous heroin as well as other opiates and opioids. It also quantified heroin-related interactions with the medical community and assessed student and school penetration of the drug. The report also tried to construct a profile of what was the typical heroin user, and also took a look at drug and opiate arrest trends, addressing the dangerousness and distribution points for the drug, and tried to quantify the drug economy and related costs in terms of law enforcement, courts, healthcare, chamber of commerce as well. And finally, it tried to assess the treatment availability and costs in dealing with the drug, and address behavioral economics related to heroin, and provide qualitative data from interviews and focus groups with families and officials affected by the drug. That's really that's a lot to take in, and a lot of scope that has gone into this whole issue. Ultimately, how much will that cost the county?
Well, the work has been done, and the board has a copy now of that study. The district attorney provided that to the board here recently, and they hired this firm to do the work, and I believe that work was close to $40,000 worth of activity.
Now, all of these efforts, including the county's heroin task force, are all designed to save lives and address this problem. What are your hopes come out of this along those guidelines?
Well, we're a small piece of the puzzle. I mean, we can obviously we can do what we can do at the county level and the government level per se, but ultimately it's a responsibility of the community, the families, the individuals themselves, and to make it better. And we've got a society now that needs help in a lot of areas. So as we move forward at Fulton County, our health department and our others, and our behavioral health, our fire, our police, we're going to do all we can to at least make the problem go away as best to our ability.
Todd Long, Fulton County's Chief Operating Officer, thank you for being here, and thank you for being a big part of addressing this issue. Now, citizens are weighing in on another alarming and growing problem in Fulton County, that being child sex trafficking. Fulton County's District Attorney and Solicitor General turned their attention to this important topic during National Crime Victims Week. Here's FGTV's Shania Chavis-Rucker.
In a dimly lit room at the Loudermilk Center sat a group of advocates, law enforcement, and legal professionals. They all watched with great concern a documentary on the commercial sex trade in America. The film highlighted the reality of the local sex trafficking business.
Human trafficking is everywhere. Fulton County is somebody who actively combats human trafficking, so we have a lot of it, and we see a lot of it, and we actually put a lot of bad guys away.
And there are a lot of bad guys who commit this crime primarily against young girls. The film, produced by actor George Clooney, affirms that about 300,000 American children are at risk for being sexually exploited for commercial use, something both local and federal law enforcement officials know all too well.
The key to solving sex trafficking threat here in Fulton County and the metro Atlanta area is collaboration between law enforcement, prosecutors, NGOs, victim services, social welfare. Everybody plays a role. It really takes a village to try to address the problem, and that's what one of the things that I think Atlanta and Fulton County is doing as well as anybody in the country.
The Fulton County District Attorney's Office partnered with the Fulton County Solicitor General's Office to host the film screening and panel discussion. They pulled together their partners in the war against this escalating crime. Partners like Youth Spark, the nonprofit organization that works on the front lines helping victims.
We work with them to connect them with services. We work with youth as early on as possible to prevent further victimization and exploitation. We work to advocate on behalf of youth, whether that's improving their situation in a court or whether that's changing laws so that they don't experience what they've experienced the first time around.
All of Fulton's leaders have pledged to address this issue, giving it the resources it needs, from the Board of Commissioners to the Justice Partners. And now, the county is looking to Georgia lawmakers to assist with passing new laws to, in part, help the many victims not only in Fulton County, but all around the state.
Now, that was Shania Chavis-Rucker reporting. The Fulton County Family Violence Task Force has a Facebook page that it wants you to like. Please visit the page and see how you can get involved and get informed. That's all of our time. Thanks for joining us for Fulton at Work, and a very special thanks to our guest today. Now, we want to connect with you online. Please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Daryl Carver, and we'll see you next time.